Hello and welcome. You're watching Head to Head on UATV, and I'm Oles Gerjuk. Despite the constant denials from the Kremlin, there are multiple proofs of Russian mercenaries involved in hostilities both in eastern Ukraine and Syria. Some of these mercenaries have criminal past. Many of them participated in the seizure of the Crimea. InformNapalm volunteer intelligence community is among those who collected an array of data on that. To explore this data, we are joined in the studio today by Mykhaylo Makaruk, spokesperson of the InformNapalm. Hello, and thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's a big honor for me.
It's an honor for us to have you here. So, Mr. Makaruk, we're talking about Russian private military companies secretly taking part in military actions worldwide. So what are the most recent findings of InformNapalm on the matter?
Nowadays, I can say that the most interesting fact is that private military company of Wagner have some made in battle for Debaltseve.
They participated in the battle?
Yes, they was participated in Debaltseve, but not such like some light interfere. Yeah, they was participated like the tank battery and artillery battery also. We have the fact that the Russia government give for them main battle tanks, and they give for them main artillery system, and they was connected with the Russian command center when it was battle for Debaltseve, and they use this old technique.
So basically what you mean is that these people, these mercenaries, are hired by some private company, and this private company is serving the Russian state and Russian state authorities, fulfilling the orders from the Kremlin.
Yeah, sure. The Russia state gives the money and founding this private military company.
And equipment, as you said, the tanks and artillery systems.
Yeah, because it's very difficult to explain for our European friends and friends over the world how it can be in the simple private military company. There are main battle tanks and different artillery system. They have and use it everywhere they want.
Could you tell us more about this Wagner group? Why Wagner? How many people do participate in this private company? Well, approximately. I know that it's probably impossible to count how many people do take part in the fightings in Syria and also in Ukraine, but still approximately some data.
Nowadays, we know that the Wagner is some nickname of the Mr. Utkin, who is a good friend of Russia oligarch Yevgeny Prigozhin.
Who is financing, basically?
Yeah, he is a personal cooker of Putin. It's his second name. Also, we know that Mr. Wagner has a good structure of this private military company, and it consists of the different types of military men and the warriors over the Russia have during their history. They were in Transnistria, they were in Chechnya, they were in Ichkeria, in Georgia, in Ukraine also.
And Ossetia probably also.
Yes, sure. And they have the colossal potential for making this private military company. Nowadays, we know that everybody in this private military company has a personal ID number, and it's growing with when new persons come in. Nowadays, we know that there are more than 5,000 people are in private military company of Wagner.
Oh my gosh, engaged in this private. Well, and Wagner is not the only one private military organization, but is this thing legal in Russia to have the private military company?
You know, you say good words because nowadays the Russian laws say that it's impossible to have the private military company in Russia, because the criminal police have very interesting laws which says that you couldn't have your personal weapon. You couldn't make the big military personal brigade on the territory of Russia, and mercenaries is under the law over the Russian.
Mercenarism is illegal, basically. This is considered to be a crime in Russia.
But it's very good for Russians because they can destroy anybody who was in this private military company by the Russian laws.
And what is the story about that many guys who participate in this kind of groups, Wagner Group and others, they are taken out of prison?
Yeah, sure, because it's the SAM system in Russia, which was built by old KGB system. They use the good professional guys who are now in prison, give them for some freedom, and they go to the front line in this private military company. We say about military company, we know that not about only Wagner. We say about private military company in St. Petersburg, which has name Mara. It's Yenot Corporation, and also it's the Russian Cossacks, who was the low quality private military company which took in all wars which was in New Russian, modern Russian. They was in Transnistria, these Cossacks, they was in Georgia, in Ossetia, they was in Ichkeria, they was present in Ukraine, also in Crimea.
But if they were present in these areas, for me the most surprising thing is that actually a lot of participants of a lot of mercenaries do also come from these areas. So they are engaged, they are being recruited in Ossetia, in Abkhazia, in Chechnya. How is this possible that these people are being recruited in the territories that actually experience the pressure of Russian Empire, and then they go to fight in Ukraine and Syria?
It's very simple, because old KGB system, which has now FSB system, they working very well for the recruiting of their own citizens. That's why they use it, but they use also the international communication. Nowadays we know that there are many mercenaries in Wagner private military company comes from the Kosovo and Serbia Republic also, and they was present there.
So they always recruit around, like basically they recruit people everywhere.
They recruited people who once lived in Russia world.
Well, when did this Wagner group start?
They started their mission in Crimea.
In 2014?
Yes, sure. Nowadays they are present not only in Ukraine and Syria. We know that our command identified the Wagner private military company in Yemen, in South Sudan, in Central Africa Republic, and Republic of Mali in Africa.
This is a huge scale of influence, and from what I know, like this is the army that is being called like Putin's army. Like the nickname is Putin's army?
Yeah, it's like private Putin army, because how to explain to you, basically they are nothing. Because if we speak about Geneva Convention, they under this law. And nowadays we know that he used this private military company very well and over the world, and he gives that targets which are high quality.
How does he benefit from this?
I think it's benefit by some group of Russia oligarchs who gives them the good money. For example, Surkov, Glaziev, Prigozhin, and other guys.
And at the same time, he's not basically stating the official position of Russia and doing everything in a secret way.
Because they can, in any time in which any accident with this private military company, the Russian government can say that's not our troops, it's some private troops.
So they always deny Russian presence in any conflict. Well, and actually, recently, a Russian veterans organization called on the Kremlin to recognize that private military companies are participating in Syrian war. They explain themselves that they are deprived of state privilege for veterans, like rehabilitation, social and financial support. So they adopted some kind of a resolution, if I'm not mistaken, on the matter at all Russian officers' meetings. So why don't they call on Kremlin to recognize Russian soldiers fighting in Ukraine also?
I think it's only the one of trying to make the private Russian military company legal on territory of Russia Federation.
But they use only Syria as a purpose. Why only Syria? Because Syria is the most proven case?
Because Syria is the most popular case in Russian media also, and opposition media, because nowadays a new type of war when in your army during one day was more than 400 people was killed. It's very huge damage for any army over the world. It's the most huge damage over the world.
What's happening with the families of these mercenaries? I mean, people do take part, do get involved in this kind of private military groups, and then they get killed somewhere abroad, and then they cannot even be buried with all the privilege, with all the honor.
That's why Russian government won't use these mercenaries, because they don't must pay any money for these families, for their children, and for themselves when they became very ill guys after this war. They are nothing. They give the contract, they make the contract, all is okay.
So what motivates these people then to get involved into this madness? What motivates these guys to become mercenaries?
Moscow is not Russia. People who live in Siberia, in another region of Russia, for example, in Sakha-Yakutia, in Bashkiria and Kalmykia, they have not good money, and for them, half of $1,000 per month is very big and very huge money. That's why they going to make this money in such way.
Speaking about money, I want to remind one story dated half a year ago when the Russian terrorist Zakhar Prilepin wrote on his Facebook page, quote, "Many of us go from Donbas to Syria, then return back and again serve here. It's a common thing. One of the reasons is contrary to popular myths. They pay a penny here, a salary of 16,000 rubles or maximum 20. There is more money in Syria, but our man, the Donetsk, Russian, Tatar, Ossetian, Burat, carry both wars as their own. These wars are both ours." So what information do you operate with? Is this true that those guys are always cycling between Ukraine and Syria?
Nowadays, Ukraine is the training ground for those guys who must go to Syria. When they come back, it's only by their own mind and their own business, but it's not very often they return to Donbas.
And they don't return.
They don't return.
Well, unfortunately, we're running out of time, but thank you so much for your interesting comments, and thank you for this interesting conversation.
Thank you.
This was Mykhaylo Makaruk, spokesperson of InformNapalm volunteer intelligence community. Thank you for watching Head to Head. I'm Olas Garjuk. Goodbye.